This DJNTV show is sponsored by DJ Event Planner, Electro Voice, DJ Trivia and DJ Bingo, ProX Direct, NLFX Pro, Promo Only, Odyssey Cases, Perfect Portals, Instant DJ Requests, and our DJNTV Insiders. This is John Young from DJNTV. Thanks for watching.
Good evening and welcome. Another Monday night. And I'm so thankful that you are able to join us. Now, I got to say one thing, though. I got to put my disclaimer out here. All right. There was two things that never got brought up last week. I cannot guarantee that won't happen tonight. So if you do not have your drink handy, get it ready. That's all I'm going to say.
You guys didn't talk about virtual DJ?
No.
Wow. So
I don't think we did. We mentioned it.
So you did talk about it.
Yeah.
So
tonight,
speaking of virtual DJ, let's just continue. Let's just go on. So there's this thing happening next year called 2023, and I don't know if you had heard, but there's a virtual DJ 2023 coming out.
I did not.
Well, yes,
I assumed
there's a new version.
Do updates.
Yes, and so far, from the first couple of that I've talked to that have been looking at it, they've been kind of like, oh, it wasn't the yay rah rah. It was You'll see some video talking a little bit about it. It's the biggest thing is in regard to the STEM capability, and they have taken and adjusted or made that even better, which is yay.
Okay. Yeah.
But it takes way more computer resources than it did before.
There's your O.
There's the O, because that means that your older Mac. Again, I'm a Mac person, so if you guys have got PCs out there for all, I don't know, but
still going to be more computing power either way.
Exactly. And my 2012 MacBook Pro that has been running virtual beautifully for years. Well, since 2012, is it going to be? I don't know. We'll find out. So yeah, that was our virtual.
Yeah, that would be some concern. I was kind of getting to borderline as it was, just looking at some of the resources. Like, it's never lagging or anything like that, but like this is what they recommend, and I'm like, ooh, I'm not much above that line.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now.
It's like,
and so now am I going to be below that line?
That's a huge concern, because even if you try to go through and make it do the STEM stuff like on an off night, it isn't just an off night for it to go scan your most used songs. It's like an off few days or an off week if you want it to really scan. And now from what I've heard is that it takes 5 times as long to scan a song.
I don't care about scanning. Like, I'll let it do its thing and let it do its scanning and everything. My concern would be the load process and just the compute power while I'm trying to do that. And
I'm seeing.
John Cawley though, he says the new one is just beta, so don't go jumping the gun yet. So fair enough.
Yeah, Mikey, that is 2019 isn't handling. Oh boy. Yeah. Anyway, that'll be a future discussion, and you guys just keep an eye out. MJ will be giving you more information on that. He's been on top of this an awful lot already, working with it. So, looking for that. So tonight, Dan, there's 2 things I want to get to, and we'll hit our main topic about talking about the growth of the industry and really personal growth within what we do. And then the second part is I've spent some time working with the Electro Voice, Eversate. I spent a lot of time with those here, and I was shooting, and then I would learn a new thing, and then I shot, and then then I just stopped shooting, and I just played with them for even more time. So we'll talk about those, and then we'll have that actually separated out into a different video. We'll have Michael break it apart because it'll be a good one to stand on its own. Because then I can answer all those questions we were talking about the other day.
That's good, because there was a couple of them that you're like, I think it does this. And I'm like, John, I don't think it does this. No, it does this. No, John, I don't think it does.
You were more right than I, but then it does some other kind of cool things. So, there's some really neat things out there.
Looking forward to it.
So we'll get to that. So what I wanted to start off with, or what we're going to talk about, in the month of November, this November, we are doing a kind of like a PBS station would do, where they're doing kind of a fundraiser time for DJNTV. As a lot of you have known, the industry, specifically some of the manufacturers, there isn't this support out there from manufacturers just because they're not making sales. The gear hasn't been available to make the sales. So there's many of those revenue sources that we've had over the years that have kind of dried up or gone away. Some of the companies have left business. And we've kind of been talking about this for a number of years, seeing the handwriting on the wall of which direction we wanted to go. And a number of years, we started DJNTV Insiders, which was kind of a group of very passionate people who really believed in what we were doing here, of creating content and creating information for the mobile DJ world. And what they were doing is they were helping support the channel. They were making a monthly donation. In some cases, some were doing an annual donation. And that would go to help create the content that you're seeing out there. I'll be straight on. It wasn't paying I wasn't getting paid out of this deal. I have not taken a paycheck from Disc Jockey News in 18 years. I think I've been doing this for 18 years. And that has not been something I did. This is covering, the web things. A lot of this some of these, just the software that's running all of this is costing us about close to $2,000 a year, because we have to have multiple copies of licenses and different things, whatever. So there's a lot of expense involved with it. So our insiders stepped up, and they have been just incredibly supportive over the last number of years. But we're to the point now where we want to kind of evolve even more as we go into next year, and kind of follow to a point the steps of what Digital DJ Tips has done. A number of years ago, Digital DJ Tips went away from sponsorships completely, and they went to basically funded through their educational program, where it's all paid education. And we're not going to go to that point. We're still going to have a little bit of sponsorship out there, but really we are going to kind of appeal to those of you who have learned something or we've helped over the years. And if you go to idjna.org, that's our main website portal now for handling the donation side of things. And what that is a setup is that it can, for some people, they're going to, hey, I want to do a one-time, to help a little bit. There's a link for that. Some people are like, hey, I want to do a few bucks a month. There's a link for that. Some people don't want to see. There's a link for that. You can see the links on that. But we set up IDJNA as the portal to handle donations that will go towards education. Now, the IDJNA is something that we've been working with a number of years ago, but it really came to the point of we wanted to make that about education. And specifically, we wanted to have that become the nonprofit portal to basically fund education within the mobile DJ industry. So the IDJNA is literally the only nonprofit that is exclusively set up to fund education in the DJ industry. There aren't any others. If somebody knows of one, they'd have to let me know. I don't think it is. Yes, Dan got the link in there for you guys for that out there. Again, idjna.org. So we've set that up. And for those of you wondering, what's the difference between what you were doing as an insider versus the IDJNA, they're basically, for your tax purposes, they both can be written off. One can be written off more as a business expense with the insider area. The IDJNA is a nonprofit 501c3 or whatever it is. 501c3. There we go. Nonprofit, and that can be written off differently on your taxes. Specifically, if you don't claim a business and you don't have a Schedule C, you can still write off the donation to the IDJNA. You can't write off a business expense if you don't have a business, which some DJs are out there and they don't have. So we set it all up. So it's up there and running, and November is going to be kind of our time to give back, because any funds that come in, we have a goal set of $20,000 for the month, and that money will go into helping in 2023 run the IDJNA or run DJNTV. We've got this year's all taken care of. We're good, but it's looking into next year. We want to be able to continue to do what we're doing. There's a few things we've had on our plate we wanted to do, but we haven't had the funds to do it. So we're really hoping that, with a couple of successful fundraisers, we'll be able to bring what we've been doing and more to the DJ industry for 2023. So, sorry, that was long. Had a lot to cover.
So for those of you that are wondering, IDJNA stands for IDJ Narcotics Anonymous. Just saying it, everybody knows.
Yeah, exactly. You just want to make sure it's all out there, so everyone understands exactly, what we're funding.
I'm sorry, I had to bring some humor into there. It is not what that stands for. Just so that you're clear.
Yeah, we, obviously, the IDJNA is we've referred to it as the International Disc Jockey News Academy, because our training and videos are seen literally around the world, as any YouTube channel obviously is. But there's so many people out there and lives that we've changed over the years, and I'm not saying this to be braggadocious or to toot our own horn, but the reality is that there have been lives, and some of you watching tonight, maybe you've benefited from that. But there's people we all know that every once in a while someone will say, hey, you know what? I was able to go from doing this to doing this, or I've been able to go from here to there. And it's always kind of cool to hear people, give you that feedback.
I will honestly say that it was one of the first times of going to DJ Expo after being a part of this organization, in the video format, and running into people that came up to me and talked about stuff that we talked about, and just having conversations like that just kind of really took me off guard, because I wasn't expecting it. I don't know. Just like always kind of, I'm here. I hang out. Like it's different. And yet obviously those of you that have run into me at the shows and different things, or reached me on Facebook or, Instagram and just said, hey, and gave us feedback. Trust me, we appreciate that so much. I think it's one of those things where, just that extra note that we've helped you is like, yeah.
It really is. It's because sometimes you feel like we're just talking and not sharing tips and little tidbits enough to give that value. And then I talked to even talking to Michael today, and he's been following a few of the things. He's like, he goes, I'm picking up little things here and there, and there's a 19-year-old that's getting into the DJ thing, and he's not so much doing the business side of it, but just other little aspects of how to work with people and how to connect and whatever. Everyone's at a different point in their career, and they're going to pick up different things at different times from the same content. And I get that, but it's always kind of neat to hear that that's the case. So I wanted to, from the educational standpoint of it, we're just one source of educational content, and there's so many, and I don't know, Dan, if you've been kind of following, that. Is DJ Collective this week, or is this next week?
It's this week. That's this week.
So they're going to be going on probably starting tomorrow, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
yeah,
number of DJ shows out there, and you mentioned, of course, DJ Expo. As someone who's been to the show, for someone who's never gone to a show, kind of what was the thing that got you over the hump to go to the show for the first time?
I won a free pass. That's kind of what it was. Now, to be honest, like at the time that I heard about it, so obviously, I'd been in the business for a while. I had been DJing as a mobile DJ, hit and miss for 8 years, 8-9 years at that point, and I got into following DJ idea sharing, and was in with that group and kind of the ground stages for it. And it was one of the vendors, Eternal Lighting, Mark Malay. Malay. Thank you. I never knew how to say the last name. I was just called him Mark. He was giving away a pass to DJ Expo, and I had never. I don't think at that point I had even heard about this expo.
Sure.
But it was like, I'm going to enter. Like, I'm going to put in for this. Like, this is going to be, whatever. What have I got to lose? And I remember actually finding out that I won the tickets on my birthday, which was like even better. So I was just like, I'm going. And I remember telling my wife, like, I won these passes. Like, this is awesome. Like this is so cool. I have no idea what I'm in for, but I'm gonna go check it out. And so then I went down, and I still, I drove down on a Monday morning. So I left here. I don't remember. It was so ungodly early, and drove down, got there, got checked. Then I even checked into the hotel because I couldn't at that point because it was so early. But got in there and went to the first seminar, and I still remember the first one was Steve Moody's All-Star MCs.
Nice.
And 5 minutes into this thing, maybe 10 minutes at most, I'm like, I'm coming every year. Like, it was just one of those things where I started, and the more that week went on, the more I learned, and the more I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm surrounded by people that think the way I do, that talk the way I do, that get excited over the same things I do. And it suddenly was a whole new brotherhood that I had never realized existed. Because around, at that point, and some of you probably have this experience, right? Like, the people in your market, you're competitive with.
Yes.
So you're not friends, like, and that's the way it was at that point. Like, I would be acquaintances with some of these people, and we would talk kind of at the wedding shows, but we were always so guarded with everything. And here are these people that were not from my area, so we could talk about anything because we're not competing for the same person, the same client. So as a result, it really started to change. And then every year that I've been able to go back and added other shows. Had gone to Robbie's, Arms DJs, once in Tennessee. Wanted to go more, but always fell on my son's birthday, and I felt guilty about, leaving him for that. But there's so many things like that. I've always been a big proponent of education, and once I found out about them, that's what it took for me to say I need to be there.
And I think one of the prior to going, and it seems like, we had a similar experience. We knew that they existed and just hadn't gone. Where you really hadn't heard much about it prior to that. But there's always a lot of reasons why we don't go. Whether it's, I don't have the time is a big one. Or I can't afford to go. And as some people, they what am I going to learn there? I'm not going to learn whatever. We're not going to go into that one because, as you just experience and explain so well, is that there is so much to be picked up, whether it's in the seminar room or even just in the networking and talking. So, where that brings me, and if we're going to go in that direction with what you're saying is that one of the big things that we can do for a lot of DJs out there is that they're going to have some of these barriers that can keep them from going to a show or to being at a show every year or on a regular basis. Secondly is to be able to talk shop. And we've kind of helped to provide kind of that little family. This chat room, you look at that, how many times are they having a separate conversation that is just as pertinent to the industry or what their needs are for the night as anything we're saying? And we've been able to kind of help develop that sense of community and that sense of communication. And they can spend Monday nights talking shop in our chat room, and then they can go and hang out with Howie and have a great old time talking shop. For there are times that they're until 4 a.m. I'm just saying.
Well, and you think about it like that chill room in itself, and I know it developed out of a dark time, right? But I will say that the people that are there, like they're. Sometimes you hear the term family thrown around a lot, and it's kind of, very overused, I think, from time to time, but not with that crew. Like, they are tried and true family. And I will say, if you've been borderline about thinking about jumping in and hanging out, you will be family too. Like, that's the way they are. That's the way they are about things, is very much pulling everybody together.
Yeah.
But, exactly as John said, like, there's a lot of barriers that can get in your way if you let them get in your way. And I'm going to use an Alan Berg analogy. You'll never have. I'm probably going to paraphrase it wrong, so bear with me, Alan. If you catch this, don't yell at me, right? But if you're never going to have time for the things that you don't take time for.
That's very true,
right? You're going to have, like, if you want to do something, you will find time. right? You know, and kind of the same thing with any of the videos that any of the members here at DJNTV put up. If you don't take the time to watch them because you don't have time, like you're gonna, you know, if I said, and he uses this analogy a couple times where and I assume he's a basketball fan of some sort, but if I say I've got 2 tickets to such and such basketball game tonight, all you have to do is show up. You'll find a way to make the time to show up, right? If you're a basketball fan and
Yep.
but like that idea. So like kind of that same thing applies. Like if you want to make time for these videos, you need to say, that's a video I want to see. It's worth taking 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it might be, and watching, because you are going to gain information from it. The most basic stuff to the most complex, they all have something that you can pull from. I don't care what it is.
So
well, maybe it's MJ's video on the cables. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you probably still learned something at that. So it's interesting that you talked about that, you know, the whole concept of making time, and if something's important, you know, you make the time to do it. And that's been a discussion we've actually been having in our household an awful lot, because 3, 4, 5 years ago, you know, I would see people, and this is going to go into the physical fitness area just for a second, but it applies. You see people like Mike Walter or Marcello and different things, and you're thinking to yourself, how much time are they allocating or putting into getting themselves into a level of fitness to the level of where they're at? And you start thinking and looking at that, and that's one of the things in the last year and a half that I've realized, that in order to lose 50 pounds, and in order to be able to get my exercise level and my VO2 scores as high as they are, it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of work on a daily basis, and it takes you to commit to that hour a day, whether it's doing core workout, whether it's doing running, whether it's doing this. It takes that, and if you put that and make that a priority, yes, there's going to be other things in life that you probably have to set off to the side, you know, not on Facebook as much, whatever. But if you make that a priority, you may have incredible results. And I think that lesson has been hammered home for me in the last year and a half, and I think that's actually been something the kids are starting to see, is that if you really want something and you make it that priority and do it, you will see results. And that, I think, goes into the business world also, exactly what you were talking about. If you make training and learning your craft and do it, going to do every day. I'm going to do something every day pretty much, or every 5 days a week, whatever it is. But if you're consistent, you'll see big results.
So you've got to put in the time of anything. It's not going to just magically happen. The talent can only take you so far. I don't care what the thing is, whether it's a physical thing, whether it's a business, whether it's a DJing thing, whether it's an MCing thing. Your talent is only going to take you so far. At some point, you need to put in those pieces that are going to take you to that next level. That's going to train you how to use your talent in the right way. There are going to be extra keys that you need to pull in for sure.
So we're going to take a couple. We're going to actually probably be a little shorter tonight with this show. So just to give you guys a heads up, I want to go back to the early. Again, Michael and I were having this conversation earlier today about when we started back in the 90s, before Disc Jockey News was even a thing. The late 90s, we had already gone to a couple of the early conventions, and we really could see that there was a need for a regional educational experience, or something that DJs could have, because there were so many DJs. I think the first time we went to Las Vegas, and there's 1,000 DJs there, and there were like 5 from Minnesota. Very, very small contingency. And we were looking at that and thinking, this is a life-changing, having education and training available was life-changing. And it's like, how can we do that? And that became part of our effort to start an association up here in the Upper Midwest, the Minnesota Association of Professional DJs. We brought Peter Mary up for our very first little conference. We had Mark Farrell up here for some meetings and things, and even myself, we traveled around to Fargo and Madison, Wisconsin, and Iowa, and different places, as well as Minnesota, basically to bring DJs together and to put some educational opportunities together. And one of the little things in my notes that I was talking about is that passion of being able to to help DJs improve their business and be able to help them create something that they will be able to work less, work smarter, work more profitably, and have more time to do the things in life that they really want to do, whether that's spending time with family or hobbies or whatever. But the idea is that instead of the business running their lives, that they could learn how to run their business so they could have a life, is really what we were after. And creating something that I would have a DJ business that I could hand down to my children if I so chose. And they would, instead of it being I feel like I'm a used car salesman type of a thing, and kind of like, oh, I'm a DJ and you're cringing. You would say, hey, I'm a DJ. And people would be like, oh, cool. That's awesome, man. It would be more respected. So those are really what we were pushing to try to do. And over the years, we've had successes and not so successful in some avenues. But the idea of being able to help the industry grow and to help people. Sometimes we're helping people one at a time. Sometimes we can help more people. But that's really stayed consistent throughout our time together. And even, what we do on our Monday night shows, trying to give a nugget or two, if not more, just to help people where they are to become better. So, have we succeeded? Yeah, we've made progress. There's many things we can do to can take that to the next level, and I guess that kind of circles us back to why we're going to be doing kind of this little fundraiser here in November to hopefully to be able to continue to do the things we've been doing.
And as John mentioned earlier in the show, there's kind of a double fold to this. Like, as some of the conversation went, do we go back to the insider type of idea and everything else? But the one thing that kind of we recognize is there's a lot of DJs out there that are pulling this in, that are watching this, that are, under the term of bedroom DJs, right? They don't, they're here to learn, they're here to do what they have, but they don't have the advantage of being able to write this off the right way.
Yeah.
And so this gives that other opportunity, to do what they need to do, to be able to say, hey, I found value in that. I appreciate that. Here's a few bucks, whatever it might be, to be able to do that. And they get the benefit in the end for it as well. So, definitely recognize that this is meant as a way to help. And this isn't just a, palm out here, give us something, but this is, a way for you to kind of be a part of all that process as well.
For sure. Yeah. So if it isn't for partners like our DJNTV insiders and the people who've already made donations on the IDJNA website, we couldn't do what we do. There's no question about it. Our sponsorship from manufacturers hasn't been enough for the last number of years to cover. And that's, I mentioned earlier that, the whole doing a pay thing, I haven't done any of that because it's been one of those things I've had to DJ to help supplement the Disc Jockey News. And I've done that for a number of years, and I was okay with it, but now it's to the point I would rather not be doing that. And I think that if we can get this, that we can do well with these little fundraisers here and there, and get that kind of support, and have you guys involved with giving us feedback on what what do you like, what would you like to see. I think we could really create something here that's going to be beneficial for the DJ industry. Okay, let's see. We're at about 27 after. Let's take a few minutes to talk about the. I need to put. This isn't going to be. I need to put a divider in here. So we'll be right back here. I just need to have this in for Michael with the edit. So that way he can pull it apart a lot easier in edit, because he can find that little break real quick. So Dan, I pulled it. I got two of the Everse 8s last week, and I got one. And the first thing I did is, I was going to take one out of the box and plug it in. I wanted to play it right away and do everything. Do you know how tough it is to take that little weatherproof cap off the back?
I didn't until I saw Brian do it.
Oh my goodness!
So Brian had his video up because he got one like the very next day, which I think was completely awesome. But I mean, he was wedging at it and everything else.
I wasn't sure if
there's a reason why it's weather resistant.
yeah, it was something. I wasn't sure if it was like, is there a hinge? Is there a latch, or what's going on? I wasn't sure if I was doing something wrong. And yeah, well, they do come off. again, as Brian experienced, I'm sure it was extra difficult with really trying to do it with one hand. That would have been tough. So got them plugged in and played with those a little bit. And I also have the Bose. I have a single Bose of the S1 Pro, and I've used that. That's basically been the times where I've needed to run, say, if I'm doing a backyard party and I want to run a speaker around the house and have one in the front yard, I would use the S1 Pro, and then you could just have it there and just have kind of cocktail volume around the house. So I've used it that way. I used it for one ceremony. I wasn't overly happy with it as for a ceremony because I just ran a wired mic into it. That's all I had for this last minute ceremony. Do you have a speaker and a mic we can use? As we're doing a backyard wedding. It's like, oh, well, if I would have known, I would have had a mixer and I could have done it nice. But hey, let's try this. It functioned, but I didn't feel there was enough volume with the microphone to really do that. But it functioned, and everyone got to hear what they wanted to hear. I would have liked more. So I hooked today. Today was my day of really testing them out, and one of the things I had mentioned to Dan is that, of course, the eVerse has the TWS, True Wireless Stereo capability, so that the unit will your phone will pair to the first one, and then you can go into the Bluetooth menu and you can go and click link speaker, and then on the other one you can go down Bluetooth menu, link speaker, and then they do this magic, and the next thing you know, they're talking to each other. And it goes, so it's phone to the first one to the second one. So I wanted to make sure that was indeed the case. So I took the phone and moved the phone away from the first one about 50 feet. I was about 40 feet that way. So I took the phone that way, and then I went with the other speaker and I went out line of sight and opened the door up so I could have it. And I was able to go, I was easily probably 75 to 80 feet away from the phone. And I don't know of any Bluetooth from a cell phone that's going to travel 80 some feet. It just doesn't work. And I still had, without any dropouts. Of course, once I closed the overhead door, that was a different story. But for my test, I'm pretty confident that it goes phone to the first speaker to the second speaker is how they do the connecting. So that was one of the questions I had. The second one is that when you're connected like that, would the microphone pass through? And I wasn't sure about this one, and Dan was pretty confident that it wouldn't, and Dan was indeed right. So for those of you wondering, Dan is as smart as he seems.
No, I just was really been looking for this feature forever and a day now from some manufacturer. So somebody that's watching this, I'm going to put it out there. You want to be able to take my money from me? Here's what you need in a speaker that you can use for these ceremonies, because I will drop a dime on it in a heartbeat. If you can allow us to plug our devices into the one and use a Bluetooth feature to send it to the other speaker to where I don't need to run some cable or something else. If I can Bluetooth to both of them, that only helps me if I can have everything that's plugged into this one also go to the second one. Because if the only thing I'm getting out of that second speaker is the microphone, it's doing me no good to have both of those with a mixer on the back.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it is right now, unfortunately. So music goes through. Now, one of the neat things about it, though, is on that second one, is that if you hook a wire to the mix out, you can take that down to another speaker. So you could go into the first one, to the second one, wirelessly to the second one to have that, go from that speaker down to a subwoofer. And then you can come out of the first one with the mix out down to a subwoofer. So you could Bluetooth and have your connection if you were going to run these with subs. And it would actually work really well. Because one of the cool things it has that the Bose doesn't have is it has the full EV menu in the back. So you can go through and you can select which subwoofer you have or set the crossover point, and you're ready to go, which was a really cool thing because it has, I think it had the 18 and the 12 on it. I can't remember exactly what it has, but the options are right there. So you could definitely do that. And that was one of the things I was trying to play with because I wanted to get an idea of how much volume or how much sound pressure you can achieve with these. I was working with a different Bluetooth speaker that a company sent out, a Chinese direct company type of thing, And the most I could get using Bluetooth through that speaker for sound pressure was about 100 decibels at about 2 feet away. Well, that's cocktail, a glorified cocktail level, really. It's a little louder than cocktail, but that's about the extent of it. It would kind of give you a little bit of room-filling sound for a smaller room, but that's about it. These, I went and I hooked them up again. We're all hooked up via Bluetooth. So I did the combination. So I went from 1 to 2 down to the Bose. So they were all 3 running full range. And I would go and I'd set them right to the point where on the back of the EVs where the limit light would, or the limit notification would come on. So it'd be like, okay, up, limit's on. Click 1 notch down on the Bluetooth device, and then no limiting going on. Then I went down to the Bose and set the volume on the Bose just to the point where it was just below where the red kind of clip or the limiting indicator would be on the Bose. So we were basically as maxed out as you possibly could be with those speakers. When they're all full range, I could get a top reading, the highest reading I could get with the Bose was about 110 decibels. And that was at about 16 inches away because I didn't have a ton of room in there. Going to the EVs, I was getting about around 110. I could get maybe 112 for the Bose, 110 from the EVs. It's registered a little louder, but as I listened to the two at that point, I felt that the Bose sounded like it was straining more, if that makes sense, at that. But I thought when I've got the EVs flat and the Bose as flat as it could be, or whatever you can do with that, it sounded like the Bose was actually it felt like a little more bass. So I found that interesting. We always talk about no highs, no lows, it must be Bose type of, you've heard that thing. That was very interesting to me. So then I decided
I think that's more in their column
erase. Well, it's been there since the 901 days, I think is when I first heard it. So then I took the two tops, the two Evers, and I put them to rolling off the lows. So I basically set the crossover point at 100, the 100 hertz. So it was rolling off everything below 100. And I shut the Bose off and ran the 2. And then I could get actually on the little decibel reader, I could get up to about 114 decibels peak with that particular track. And then as I pushed it harder or would get the limiting light, then that's where I kind of drew that line again. So I was able to get a little bit more sound pressure, and it was definitely noticeably louder, I felt, coming in at that 114. So then I backed it off just a hair bit, turned the Bose back on again, and now the Bose, because of it feeling like it had more bass, and it was actually down on the floor, it actually made a really good sounding little system because you had the two tops, and then it's like the Bose was acting like a sub. It's like, oh, this sounds really good. This sounds crazy good with having, in essence, a little sub under it.
Yeah.
So yeah. Overall, I think that the Verse has a lot of functionality that with the little mixer built in the back. I think it's got more headroom. The microphone, I plugged it in, and I could get that handheld microphone way louder on the Verse than you could on the Bose. I was really happy with how they've done that. When you can go and you can, on the back of it, you go to above channel 1, you hit the little light, the little bar tab there, and all of a sudden I've got the ability to turn that channel way up if I need to, especially with a handheld wired mic. So microphones can be much brighter. Sound quality with the unit. I think if you want to compare what I need to get the Everse to sound like the Bose, I turned it to club, and then they sounded like they were like twins, just because the club is EQ'd a little bit differently. The app, interestingly enough, and this was another finding that I didn't know was possible, but in the app, it's probably, I don't know if it's going to show, if I can show everything. I synced it, the one phone, and I was wondering, it's like, okay, so if I'm controlling the two speakers, which is not finding them, so that's why, if I'm controlling them, can I run music from the same device? Which I can. First, you have to connect the two speakers to this, and then you have to come back and reconnect the audio side of it. And it is possible, which was actually a really kind of a cool little feature, because then I could stand here and I could go volume up, volume down over my speakers. And it was really kind of a neat system, because then I could, if I needed to, I could pull some of the bass out as a song, depending upon the song, and have that control on the fly. Again, if I don't have a mixer that I'm doing everything off a mobile device, I can still control it off that same mobile device, which I thought was really a cool thing, because I don't. Again, another Chinese speaker that came that has a control app, and that you can't do both at the same time. So
the one thing that I think that really frees you out for, and it was kind of funny because I had this argument with a friend of mine where his biggest complaint was the fact that there's no physical knobs other than the one master volume on the back of the Everse. Now that you mentioned about dialing the channel, so maybe that's a little bit off from what he was originally thinking, but he didn't like the app aspect. He didn't like having to use the app to be able to control the channels and stuff like that. But
sure.
I think in a lot of aspects, if you feel first off, this is the one key. You've got to feel comfortable enough to be able to Bluetooth your music. I think that's one that for some people that's a deal breaker.
Yes.
But if you are comfortable enough to do that, what that affords you the luxury of is no longer do we have to be tied to putting this speaker, for those of you that do this, putting your speaker in the back, because that's where you're going to stand and that's where you're plugging everything in. Because now that you have the ability to have, and let's assume for a second, you're only running the one mic, right? So you got the mic in, you got the Bluetooth, you can still be, within that distance that you're going to be able to do it, controlling, but now your speaker can be a little closer to the front, or maybe more to the side or something like that. It doesn't have to automatically be in the back shooting. You can have it where you need, you can control it to, where you're at. That's the other thing, is you have the ability to know the volume of how it sounds to the guests without, because you're going to be standing closer to where the guests are, versus, and by the speaker, it sounds plenty loud, but when you go 20 feet away because you're in an open space, it's like, oh, it's really quiet. Like, that was the one thing I noticed when I started running wireless for my ceremonies.
Sure.
Is having such a better understanding of what the sound is that they're hearing versus what I thought they were hearing, because I was 5 feet from the speaker, because that's where it was.
Yeah. No, that's it.
You get a better feel.
That's an excellent point. Training DJs, that was one of the quick things that, one of the first things we were teaching is you got to get out and listen. You've got to, and it's not just one time at the beginning and doing a sound check and then you never leave, never leave the booth again. You got to go out and hear what other people are hearing. And that is much easier wirelessly, that's for sure. Oh, man. And then you can make some changes. So, the JBL had some really cool functionality when they came out with their version of this. I was really close to pulling the trigger on that, but I figured it was just going to be a matter of time before Evie did bring something out. And as a fan of the Evolves and the different things, I'd rather kind of stay in the same ballpark with a lot of the gear, because to a point, those little 8s kind of match in and looks very similar to the 12s, and from the front it looks like the other speakers. So a person could easily use those to, as a surround speaker type of thing, and run wireless. I'm actually going to be using those in for Black Friday. We do that street, the sound on that main street, and we're going to jump across the street with a Sennheiser unit, and we'll probably go from the first one, and then we'll have to use something else to bounce, because we can't bounce the signal coming in through via Bluetooth like that. But we'll bounce down the street utilizing those in a spot where I can't run extension cords. And that was one of the big things. I can use these little Sennheiser belt packs. I'll put 2 lithium-ion batteries in those things, bounce to the first one, bounce to the second one. And because they're the programmable belt packs, I won't have the problem with them fighting with each other. And then I should be able to do that. And because that street has no cords, or no power, but they want to have music going down that street, because that's connecting the fun party on Main Street to the fun party on 2nd Street. So yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be interesting to play with those a little bit more and see what they can all do. So.
And you made kind of a good point also, about even just the look. Like that, there's a lot of features. There's a lot of features with the Everse 8 that I was so close to pulling the trigger. And I've got two of the S1s. So that's been my go-to for my ceremonies and everything else. But I love the fact that, and this is such a DJ thing, because you know that nobody else is really ever thinking about this in a million years, right? But like in the bows, the position for where the pole mount is in the back of the box.
Sure.
So versus the middle, which is like on most of our speakers, most of our normal speakers, will say that you might be using, the poles in the middle, and this is in the back, and just the way that it looks versus what exactly, like the grill markings of the EV matches a lot of their other a lot of their other grills. So there's a lot of consistency through that, and again, that's stuff that the average person wouldn't care. But I will say that they're not going to care that you use two different kinds. But when they do see that there's consistency, it adds to your overall appearance.
Sure.
And so I would say, that's one selling point, that as you're thinking about putting some of your stuff together, again, if you walk up to the average person, did you notice that I used the same thing? They're gonna be like, no, like, what are you talking about? Like, shut up, just go sit down. But if you do have one of those things where they're gonna be like, oh, your setups are really nice, like you're consistent. Like, I've heard that type of phrase used a lot of different times for my stuff. Like, your stuff is really consistent, and it's like, okay, like, you don't notice this, but you're noticing that, and that kind of leads to some positives for sure.
Yeah. Every little bit helps. That's right.
Yes.
I look professional. Yeah, that would work. So.
Yeah.
All right. I think we should wrap things up. We actually went pretty much all the way. I didn't think we would. I figured we'd wrap her up sooner, but that's good. That is good. So.
We know how to talk.
Oh yeah, we studied that once. Actually, you know what is the motivating factor?
We almost made it. I
didn't say anything, but
you referenced it.
Toro lawnmowers will do wonders, and snowblowers. That's my Toro mug jug right there.
But you mentioned the S word, John.
I did not. I just said right there's Toro.
Right. You said
S word.
SNOW.
Oh yeah, there is that word. Yes. Well, we had that this morning, so I had to go out and actually pull out. Had to go after doing the treadmill over to go pick up the snow shovels. Yay. Let's see. I'm going to put the link again in the DJNTV.com/chill. That is where Howie and the crew are going to be in. They do a recording at the top of the hour for about 20 minutes or so. So jump on in there, and you can, if you want to join the chat, you certainly can. Otherwise, just keep your camera and mic off and kind of follow along. They do a recording that gets put up next week or a week or 2 weeks, depending upon how the schedule where it works out. But they'll do that, and then once they're done, they open everything up, and you guys can have a lot of fun chatting. So, no, I don't want any more snow. I'm I'm wanting the ice to get on the lake first, and then once we get about 6 inches of ice, then a little bit of snow, so it's not so slippery, so I can go fishing.
You said a whole bunch of words there that don't go together.
Ice, snow,
and fishing.
Yeah.
No.
I'll have to do a show from the fish house one night. Of course, that's generally at this time of night. It's too cold to be out there. So even I wimp out then. So yeah, this week we're going to be dropping. We didn't get any of the Howie due to doctors and things last week. We didn't get any of the Howie and Brian shows. So tomorrow night there'll be a Howie and a Brian dropping. Wednesday night there'll be a Howie and a Brian dropping. So you guys will get to kind of catch up with a couple of the shows and catch up with their conversations. And then we'll be back again next week. We're actually going to have, and then we'll figure out when we use these. Cubby was down at Wedding MBA last week, and he was doing some man on the street interviews for us. So we'll have to kind of get into that, because he's got a lot of folks he was able to get on video, kind of talking about some of the things they're looking forward to for 2023, and they're sharing some different insights. So that'll be kind of fun to dig into. So we'll have to see when we're going to implement those into a show as we get ready here for 2023.
Nice. And I'm going to put a shameless plug. Wednesday morning, assuming everything will go up, we'll have another video about some music thing that's happening.
Yeah. Some depending upon who flew into the top 10 this week. Talk about a chaotic few weeks it's been here with the music chart. So
that happens. People are finicky. It's all good.
Yeah. I think we're good.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you very much for taking time out of your night. Trust me, it's been very appreciative just seeing the chat, and those of you that have watched the show and have sent us messages. Even just the other day, I got a message from somebody that I didn't think watched our show, and he's like, "By the way, I was watching your show from last week, and it means a lot. It
Nice.
very much means a lot. So thank you very much for that. Again, don't forget idjna.org. From the earlier part of the show, make sure you click that if you can get a chance to contribute. We very much appreciate that. And again, DJNTV.com/chill for Howie. And on that note, we have to go.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good night. We'll see you next time.